Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om. Can start by reading. Uh, Last time we were Hemanji was asking this doubt, and I also had some doubts. And we were he was asking whether Karana Sharira was Brahman, but actually Karana Sharira cannot be because it is described under Anatma in Tattvabodha. So from there, I think we can start. What is Avidya or it says that Karana Sharira is Avidya or Tattvabodha system. So let's try to understand this Avidya a little bit. Hemanji, can you read?
Hi Shamu, I'm in mobile actually. I'm not able to read it more properly.
Okay, then I'll read.
Yeah, I
I'll
can
read.
read. Yeah, thank you.
You can read. Okay, then I'll read. Okay. Understanding Avidya, adapted from Pujya Swamiji's talk on Avidya. Avidya is
Hari,
Vedanta Shastra. Okay.
Shamuji?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm totally lost. Which page? I thought we're starting 140.
No. Can't you see my screen? We are reading this blog actually. The blog I
Oh,
sent you.
okay. No, I can't see it, but I'll open the blog on another device. Okay.
I can't see the screen either.
Yeah.
It's in my. Just select my window. Okay. Can you see now? Can you see it now?
I can see.
Okay.
I'll log
Understanding.
off. I'm not able to see yet, so it's okay.
Okay. Avidya in Vedanta Shastra is a technical word. In Vedanta texts, we see avidya as the cause of the world. If it is translated as ignorance, can if it is translated as ignorance, can create a problem. It means we are saying ignorance is the cause of this world. When we look at the world, what we see it is all knowledge. In fact, the world is a manifestation of knowledge. So the translation of avidya as ignorance is wrong. Is avidya the absence of knowledge? It cannot be absence of knowledge either, because there is no substance called absence or abhava. World cannot come from abhava, absence. Nothing is born. Nothing is born out of nothing. Everything is born of something positively existent. And avidya is told to be the cause of the world. So, what is the meaning? What is the meaning of avidya as cause of the world? It can only be Maya Shakti, Brahman, the power of absolute consciousness to create, sustain, and resolve all that is here that appears to be many. That is avidya. The Shastra vision is na iha nana asti kinchana. There is no manyness in whatsoever. Shastra points out that duality does not exist any which way you look at it, because this Jagat is Brahmakaryam, an effect of Brahman. And therefore, this universe is non-separate from Brahman, being its effect. A golden chain is nothing but gold. In fact, there is no substance called chain. The chain is all the way gold, simply a name and a form of a gold. The cause is gold, and the effect is in effect the chain is. So to this Jagat being an effect of Brahman is nothing other than Brahman. The cause exists without the effect. Yet the effect can never exist without the cause. Brahman is Jagat Karanam. Does Brahman exist without Jagat? Yes. It is Satyam Jnanam Anandam, Brahman. It exists without the effect, but the effect does not exist without the cause. Brahma Karyavat Brahma Karyatvat, it is Brahma. In the Jagat, what we see is that when we create a pot, we need both the material cost as well as the pot maker, the maker or the efficient cost. In this case of Jagat, there are no two causes. There is only one cause, no second cause whatsoever. Because there is only one here, Ekam Eva Dvidiyam, one without a second. And whatever is that one cause, it obtains in the effect. The Shastra gives us an example to assimilate this. It points out that the spider is the maker of its web and the material for the web is also from the spider itself. Both the maker and material are one and the same. It means that the maker has the knowledge of what it is going to do. There is a fact here that the maker should know what he or she makes. This fact is always there for us to assimilate the nature of the cause-effect relationship. In the case of this Jagat, what is the material cause? If we say Avidya and take it as meaning as our ignorance, it would be ridiculous. In Brahma Sutra, Adhyasa Bhashya, Bhagavan Shankaracharya points out that that Adhyasa, Adasmin Tadbuddhi, seeing something as what it is not is avidya. That which is opposed to knowledge. In what is not dual, one sees duality. Tasmin buddhi. In that which is not dual, you have the buddhi of duality. This is adhyasa. This is the cause of samsara. Removal of adhyasa is moksha or liberation. Removal of adhyasa is by knowledge alone. In the Adhyasa Bhashyas, Bhashyakara proves that there is no duality whatsoever. Here we see that avidya is taken as the cause. To remove that confusion, you need knowledge. Avidya is taken as ignorance, is the cause for our confusion, is the cause for our perception of duality as real. Duality is not real. If it is not real, what is it? If it is not existent, it would not appear to be there. If it is existent, it cannot be negated. Duality is anirvachaniyam, neither existent nor non-existent. That is, it is mithya, a dependent reality, dependent on Brahman, the independent Brahman, the independent Satya, reality. Brahman alone, in Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashyam, Taittiriya Upanishad Brahmanam, Brahman is presented as the cause of the universe. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat 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 yanti Brahma vijnanasva that from whom all beings have come, by whom they are sustained, and into whom they go back, that is Brahman. May you know that Brahman. So the cause of Jagat is Brahman, not ignorance. The Brahman becomes Ishvara, the efficient cause and the material cause. As efficient cause, Brahman is all knowledge. And avidya is not knowing Jagat to be non-separate from Brahman. This not knowing goes away by knowledge. What goes away is avidya. And what is non-separate from the vast Swarupa is vidya. In tradition, avidya is used as a synonym of Maya, the power of Brahman to appear as the manyness, that is the Jagat. The Maya Shakti is anirvachaniyam, that it cannot be categorically explained, neither Satyam nor Asatyam. Maya has two power. The power to wield or cover Avarana Shakti and the power to create Viksheva Shakti. So, Pujya Swamiji says Maya is Shakti or Jiva, of Jiva. Jiva Upadhi the jiva possible because of the upadhi of avidya. Otherwise, this fellow is sarvajna. Tattvamasi means you are that. You are sarvajna. The Brahman is sarvajna, and you are Brahman. You are sarvajnam Brahman. Swamiji, how can I be sarvajna Brahman? Okay, you are alpajna, small knowing, because this avidya is part of maya shakti. अविद्यया जीव माया अविद्यया जीवः मायया ईश्वरः आवरण शक्ति covers the same maya covers you. Avarana Shakti covers the same maya covers you. The same maya creates jagat. Therefore, we have to say that there is a upadhi, a samashti upadhi. It is not ignorance put together is maya. Samashti Upadhi. Samashti is Ishvara. All that is here is Ishvara. This avidya is Avarana Shakti of Maya, the power of. Then the mistake is possible on your part. Therefore, there is duality. Avritti, Avarnodi, Ya Shakti, Vastu, Swarupam Avarnodi. Not that Vastu is covered. If Vastu is Avarnodi, then Vastu becomes Paroksha, and you will have to know your existence through some other pramana. I am, that is self-evident. You don't need a pramana, a means of knowledge for it. If you say myself, if you say I see myself, I see billions of others, and so I become one of them, that is avidya. That is duality. What is one non-dual. What you see is dual. That taking duality to be real is avidya. Now we can have a discussion. Energy, are your doubts resolved?
Yeah, thanks Shamu for reading actually. Yeah, more or less I'm like I am like I'm clear on the concept that Brahman alone is real, like Brahman is the both the cause and the material for the entire world. But I just get confused with Maya Shakti. Like what exactly it is. I'm not able to understand exactly because it says like it has twofold power. The power that is like avarnam, power to wheel or cover, and the power to create vikshepa. So is it that like I'm not able to understand from where just a Brahman alone was like Brahman kind of without a Jagat, like Brahman alone was there and the Jagat came into being. As in, I understand that like entire thing is Brahman, but I'm not able to understand this Maya and its power to create like Vikshepa. That is where I get most confused actually.
Prashanti, can you answer?
Sure. So I had a very similar question several years ago, and there was one student of Pujya Swamiji. He lived in England. His name was Peter Boniachi, who also studied under Swami Atma Prakashananda ji. So I always had the same confusion that Hemant ji has about Brahman and Maya, and it almost appears as if there's a duality. But then the way the response was given based on Swami ji's teaching was that consider Brahman as just for example, consider Brahman as the sun, and the rays of the sun are like Maya. Now you cannot say that the rays of the sun are separate from Brahman because the rays of the sun are dependent upon the sun, right? So the sun is the Adhisthana, whereas the rays are a dependent entity. So the sun by itself does not project, but the sun, when you as though put it together with the rays, is what really shines. So the brilliance in terms of being able to project are the rays of the sun. It's able to project light outwards. So that is the example of Maya. Like you understand Maya as being intrinsic to the sun, the rays being intrinsic to the sun, but at the same time, the sun holds a higher degree of reality in the sense that the rays are dependent on the sun, but not vice versa. So that is one example. So I think we have to break this down into a few components. First, we have to look at Maya from the standpoint of the macrocosmos, which is the samashti, and then we'll look at Avidya from the standpoint of Vyashti. But in truth, Maya and Avidya are equivalent. It's only the standpoint from which one is looking at it. So this is one example to understand Maya. The other example would be to think of a lake. So the water in the lake is Brahman. The movement of the water, the lake itself can have two states. So the lake could be still, it could be without any ripples, it could be without any waves, or the lake could be having some movement, it could have ripples and waves. Now the movement of the lake is on account of the whatever the Shakti that is contained, which is inherent to the water. The movement of the lake, the ripples and everything are dependent upon the water. You cannot have any movement or ripples if there is no water. Similarly, the stillness of the lake is also dependent upon water. Because when you talk about the stillness, it begs the question, stillness of what? And so it is the stillness of the water. It is the movement of the water. So both movement and stillness are two states of Maya. So many times there is this assumption that it is Brahman that becomes the world. But we know that Brahman is not transacting in anything, right? Brahman is simply Brahman. That's it. Brahman is pure existence. And so Brahman does not become the world. In fact, it is the very Maya Shakti of Brahman that manifests and unmanifests as the Jagat and as well as the seed form. So the Shakti of Brahman to manifest as the Jagat is what you call Maya. So this is identical to the ripples in the lake. So the ripples are like a manifestation. There's a name and form that has been built on top of the ripples, though there is nothing additional, right? When you talk about ripples in a lake, there is nothing additional that is built on top of it. It is ultimately the same water that simply appears as something different. But the two states are not states of Brahman. Because if Brahman were manifest and Brahman were unmanifest, then Brahman becomes transactional. And Brahman becomes another object. Brahman becomes something that is subject to change, which is manifestation and manifestation. And therefore it is the Maya Shakti that is inherent to Brahman, therefore it is still non-dual, which is what is undergoing the change. So now this Maya Shakti, when you talk about Maya Shakti appearing as the Jagat, this is what is Vikshepa. The Vikshepa is the ability to project as the Jagat, and then again it goes back into the seed form when Pralaya takes place. Now when you talk about Avidya, so just look at the standpoint of the whole Jagat from the terms of Ishvara. So when you say Brahman, Brahman is simply Satchitananda. But when you refer to Brahman as Ishvara, this is Shagunatmika Maya, right? So Brahman endowed with Maya Shakti in its kinetic form is what you refer to as Ishvara. Whereas when the Maya Shakti is in its dormant or potential form, then you say it's only Brahman. So that is when you refer to Nirguna Brahma, and then when Maya Shakti is active, that is when you say it is Shaguna Brahma, which is none other than Ishvara. So this whole Jagat can be, for our sake of classification, can be divided into threefold appearances, you can say. The first would be the causal state, right? So there is something which is Jagat Karanam, there is something which is the cause of the Jagat, and that is what you call Antaryami. So Antaryami is the very cause within which the entire Jagat, all the karmas of all the beings and all the material cause and all the knowledge and all the arrangements of all the atoms and whatever, everything is stored in this pure knowledge form, this causal form, this seed form. And that is when you say that Maya Shakti is unmanifest. It is in potential seed form. It is avyakta. And then it becomes vyakta, which is this kinetic form of Maya, which is what we see is the variegated world of names and forms. So this, the seed form is what you call Antaryami. Then, if we'll probably study this in Tattvabodha later on, there's a process of manifestation which is called Panchikaranam. So Panchikaranam, so basically everything emerges from Brahman as a very simplistic example. And the first thing that emerges is Akashaha, then you have Vayuhu, and this is part of the Taittiriya Upanishad. Then you have Agnihi, you have Apaha, and you have Prithvi. So these are the Pancha Bhutas. The Pancha Bhutas are subtle elements. They are the subtle universe. The sum totality of all the subtle elements in the universe is what you call Hiranyagarbha. So from Antaryami emerges Hiranyagarbha. Now Hiranyagarbha, again, there's a process of grossification which is undergone by these 5 elements. So just to give you an example, right? I don't want to get into detail, but you have 1/8 of Vayuhu plus 1/8 of basically everything else except Akasha. So 1/2 of Akasha plus 1/8 of everything else gives you one gross Akasha. So that is one Pancha Bhautikas. So the Pancha Bhautikas undergo, the Pancha Bhutas undergo grossification to form Pancha Bhautikas, which is now the sum total of the Pancha Bhautikas is what you refer to as Virat. So now Ishvara has been divided into 3 based on our standpoint. The causal form, which is Antaryami, the subtle form, which is Hiranyagarbha, and the gross form, which we see, the physical form of Ishvara, which we witness today as the whole universe, as the planets and the stars and space and everything else. So this is what you call Virat. Now, similarly, from the standpoint of the Jiva, you have a causal state, right, which is the Karana Sharira. Then you have your subtle body, which is the Sukshma Sharira, and then you have the gross body, which is the Sthula Sharira. So the Karana Sharira can be compared to Antaryami. The subtle body, the Sukshma Sharira, can be compared to Hiranyagarbha, and the gross body, which is the Sthula Sharira, can be compared to Virat, not Virat Kohli. So this Virat is what we are able to see with our 5 senses. So this is an important point to make. It's not part of the discussion, but anything that you witness is actually part of the gross world. But whatever you imagine, whatever you think, and whatever you dream of, and all those things are what comprise of the subtle elements. So dreams are also made of things which are subtle elements. So anyway, coming back to the whole Maya discussion, Maya is what appears as the physical world. It is the instrument for the physical world to come into being. Similarly, when we talk about Avidya, Avidya is the cause for the 3 shariras to come together, or rather the Sthula, the Sukshma Sharira to come together, right? If Avidya is destroyed through knowledge, or if knowledge outshines Avidya and Avidya is removed by the acquisition of Atmajnanam, then what happens is there's no scope for the physical body to come and to come together with the subtle body, and so the Jivatvam is destroyed. Now, for the Jagat, of course, when we talk about the whole Jagat, there are countless Jivas, and therefore, hypothetically, it's never going to happen. There will always be one Jiva who will always be a miserable Jiva, who will always be overtaken by Avidya. So, is it clear so far? Then I can proceed a little further.
Yeah, more or less clear, Prashantji.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
getting
sorry, okay. Yeah, it's more or less clear, Prashantji. Thank you for the explanation. And yeah, there is still, like, if I understand correctly, Maya Shakti is power of Brahman, which is like a rays of sun. It's just a projection which is out there. All this, like, although you explained the 3 transformation which happens, like, first one is Antaryami, the next one is the Hiranyagarbha and the Virat. So although this goes through all these 3 stages and appears as what we see it right now, basically these are all the projections of the Maya. Is that correct?
That's correct. And when
Okay.
these 3 transformations happen, Brahman does not undergo any change because it is actually different states of Maya. It is Maya which is at a lower order of reality. So Maya is Mithya. Brahman is Satyam. I forgot to mention. Brahman is Satyam. Brahman, being pure existence, cannot undergo any change because all names and forms are supported by Brahman. All names and forms are having their basis, their very existence in Brahman. Whereas Maya also is a name and form because Maya also undergoes all these changes. At one point, Maya may be unmanifest. It's kind of like a ball that you throw up and it comes down, and you throw up and it comes down. It kind of bounces back and forth like a pendulum also. So this is the state that Maya undergoes, and Maya is part of Prakriti. This whole Jagat, when we talk about it, it's only Prakriti, and Prakriti has many states, and Prakriti has the potential to manifest and unmanifest. It's kind of like a pendulum, whereas Brahman always remains Brahman. So even the rays of the sun, when you talk about it, the rays of the sun are meaningless without the sun. You cannot have rays without the sun, but you can have sun without the rays. The sun is the very basis. But now when I say you can have sun without the rays, it's not happening, right? Because the rays are also part and parcel of it. So this is the other step. Maya can never be separated from Brahman. Though Maya is not distant from Brahman, Maya can also never be separated because Maya is part and parcel of Brahman. Maya is the very Shakti of Brahman. So the non-duality is maintained. One should be very careful to understand that Brahman is a higher order of reality, Maya is a lower order of reality. The names and forms will remain. The names and forms cannot be destroyed. The names and forms can only undergo change. And the names and forms, if they appear to be destroyed, they can only become unmanifest, which lie in a dormant state, in a seed form, in a Vyakta form. So now, when we say avidya is working at the individual level, it is nothing but the veiling power of Maya. So avidya is the not always the veiling, but it's predominantly the veiling power of Maya. And the reason I say this is, Ishvara has Sarvagnya. Ishvara knows everything, right? Ishvara has knowledge of the whole Jagat, of everything that goes on. In fact, it is Ishvara's knowledge that is manifesting as this Jagat. Now, when you talk about the Jiva also has some knowledge, no doubt about it. You know a few things, you can build a few things, you can build a few cities and skyscrapers and rockets, and you can discover secrets of the atom and whatnot. So we also have some knowledge, and therefore we are endowed with this Maya Shakti. Because Maya Shakti is again threefold. When we talk about Shakti, Ishvara has this in full measure. Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. So there is a desire. Now I don't translate Ichha Shakti as desire really, but let's say it's Ichha Shakti. Then there's Jnana Shakti. So when you talk about the whole Jagat, there has to be knowledge of how the Jagat is built. Every single thing in the Jagat, and Pujya Swamiji is very clear about this, is put together. We don't talk about intelligent design the way Christians talk about it, because their version is completely different. We rather say that the whole Jagat itself is ingrained with intelligence. So that is the difference. Christians say that God created the Jagat and he kind of put all the pieces together and all. Whereas we say that the whole Jagat itself is imbued with intelligence, because the Jagat is again Maya. It is one state of Maya. So, in order for anything to be done, in order for anything to be created, first there requires to be knowledge of it. Therefore, all the jivas that are there, Ishvara has knowledge of it, right? Because it's all part of again this whole paradigm of Maya Shakti. Therefore, you are a being. You have a head, you have a heart, you have a liver, you have all these organs. And this whole fact of evolution is inbuilt into the Jagat. And therefore, from single, unicellular beings, we can give rise to such complex beings such as humans and whatnot. So all these creatures are again part and parcel of the evolutionary order of the universe, which is nothing but Maya. So now, when you talk about the whole Jagat manifesting from Maya, similarly, the Jiva is manifesting from Avidya. And the Jiva, when this Avidya is destroyed, there is no longer a Jiva. But now here's a question. If Avidya is destroyed, can you also destroy Maya? So this is a discussion question. Okay, think of it this way.
Very good explanation. I'll have to listen to it again. I just loved it. I love the sun analogy.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, true, Prashanti. This was the great explanation. I think this was missing because, right, my understanding was Maya is Ichha Shakti of Ishvara, he gets a desire as such, similar to what Christians say, let there be light. I was thinking something similar, Brahman gets a desire to create the world, and then he creates Maya Shakti, which transforms it to the world. That
exactly. So see, that becomes problematic. Because if it was again like this whole let there be light, then Brahman becomes a personalized deity.
Yeah, that's what that was where I was getting the most confusion from, because I was not able to clearly kind of distinguish how Brahman and the Maya. Like you said it correctly, Brahman itself is not undergoing any change. It's just out there, but the Maya, which is kind of emanating or the subtle form of Shakti of Brahman, is projecting itself into this entire gross universe, correct?
Yes. Maya appears as a Jagat.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
so now, when you think about this whole, as these Christians say, let there be light, that is obviously the mark of a very personalized God. And whereas we don't think of Brahman or Ishvara as personal deities, of course we can relate to them personally depending on our emotional maturity. So, as Bhagavan mentions, there are 4 different categories of bhaktas in the Gita. And ultimately, the highest bhakta is the one who does not refer to himself or herself as separate from Ishvara, right? So that is the Jnani bhakta. So now, when we talk about this whole Jagat and the desire for there to be a Jagat, is Ichha Shakti, it's only very poetically put together. It's not really a desire. And this is the example Pujya Swamiji gives. Consider that all the jivas in this entire Jagat, hypothetically, have gained moksha. Then there is no cause for a Jagat any longer. Because, but even if there's a single person, and there will always be that. Let's say there's a guy, he thinks he's relatively free of desires, he's about to die. He's very close to gaining jnana. But just before he dies, he just I'm making this very colorful example. So Ishvara is happy now that, oh, thank God, this is the last fellow and there will be no more Jagat after this because there's no reason for a Jagat. But just before he dies, he thinks, I feel like having a cup of coffee. And then Ishvara is like, slapping his forehead that, oh God. Because here's why. He wants to have a cup of coffee before he dies. Therefore, he has to be reborn. Because that binding desire, let's say it's a binding desire is there. Now, Ishvara, because the Ichha is there, because there will be some karma that is binding because of this Ichha, which is also a thought, which is also a desire, which is also an action. Therefore, in order to have a cup of coffee, you require milk. So Ishvara has to somehow make sure that in the next Janma this guy has milk. In order, you don't need a Jagat, you just need milk. That's all. Give him milk and he's done, and that's it. You don't need any more Jagat. But in order to have milk, you need a cow. In order to have a cow, you need grass. For grass, you need, the earth. For earth, and you also need sunlight. For sunlight, you need the sun. And then you can't just have a sun like that. So you need other stars, and you need space, and you need the whole universe basically. To give you a glass of coffee, you need the whole universe to manifest, to fulfill any jiva's desire. So here's the clinch, okay? When we talk about Ichha Shakti, the Ichha of Ishvara to appear as a universe, it is nothing but the sum total of desires of all the jivas put together. The sum totality of all the jivas put together constitute the Ichha Shakti of Ishvara. Like, reflect on that for a moment. Therefore, the Jagat is a common playground for all the jivas to fulfill their prarabdha karma. That is why the Jagat is manifesting. The Jagat is a common playground for all jivas to fulfill their prarabdha karma. And therefore, since there are innumerable, countless jivas, and there are already countless jivas who have attained moksha, but the infinity of jivas that have not attained moksha is far greater than the infinity of jivas that have attained moksha. So this is again part of number theory. You have different sorts of infinities, right? So one can think that there's a contradiction here. If infinite jivas have attained moksha already, then how can there be any jivas left? It's because the set of jivas that have not attained moksha is a larger infinity than the set of jivas that have attained moksha. To give you a mathematical example, there are infinite even numbers. Similarly, there are also infinite odd numbers. And there are also infinite real numbers. But the set of real numbers is greater than the infinity of odd numbers or even numbers. And then if you include like fractions and irrational numbers and transcendental numbers and all the different sorts of number sets, then you will find that one infinity can be greater than a different infinity. So this is why, even though countless jivas have attained moksha, there will always be more jivas who haven't. And because there are so many jivas who haven't attained moksha, and because they have the desires and because they need their prarabdha to fulfill their desires, therefore there will always be a Jagat. There will always be a manifestation of Jagat, and this Maya Shakti will keep manifesting back and forth, and this will go on eternally. There will be no end to it. But from the standpoint of a single Jiva, there can be an end to it. So this is the place where symmetry breaks. So far we compare the symmetry between between Jiva and Jagat, between Jiva and Ishvara. But now we have to break the symmetry because there are an infinite amount of Jivas, but there is only one Jiva when we talk about the standpoint of Avidya. The Jiva can become free.
Prashantji, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Just kind of one small clarification I needed actually. Can you just once again slightly explain what is moksha? I mean, like what exactly kind of constitutes something called moksha?
Sure. Moksha is very shortly put freedom from limitations.
Okay.
So there is this ignorance that we are all possessed with, that I am a limited being, I'm a small being, I'm Alpagnya, as Pujasamji puts it in this document, that I'm Alpagnya, I'm small. And Shastra reveals to us that you are the whole, you are Purnam, you are Ananda Swarupam. And therefore, this ignorance that I am not the whole is what you call avidya. Or is this again part and parcel of avidya? Because it is veiled. Avidya is veiling the fact, right? Here the avarana shakti
Yeah.
comes into place. There's an avarana shakti that I am the whole, and I need to again, use the same blessing of Maya alone, which is knowledge. Knowledge is again the other side of avidya, in order for me to come to firm understanding, gain jnana nishtha that yes, I am the whole. And this jnana nishtha is what removes infinite janmas of infinite prarabdha. I mean, sorry, all the sum total of the karmas put together, which is what you call sanchita karma. And the reason is that the person who has performed the action is the karta. And it is only the person who looks at himself as the karta who also becomes the bhukta. If you don't look at yourself as a doer, then you can also not be the enjoyer of actions, because there's an account, right? Let me give you a very worldly example. Sorry, can you mute your mic one second? Uh, yeah, sorry, it was just echoing. So a worldly example is that you're doing a job somewhere. And now when you work, they will always ask you for your bank account number, right? For your direct deposits. They will deposit a check every month to your bank for whatever salary you get. But now suppose you don't give them a salary, or you don't give them a bank account number, or you don't give them the credentials that are required. Then you can continue working, but nothing will get deposited to your account because you have no connection to that account, right? So similarly, for a person who has lost his kartutvam through knowledge that I am not a doer, the doership is no longer there. There is also no connection to the account that all the karmas were deposited to. Very simple. And therefore, the person who has given up kartutvam also no longer has bhuktutvam. And therefore, when we talk about the physical bodies manifesting and the subtle body manifesting and whatever and coming together and you taking janma again, right? So when you take punarjanma, you're born in a certain situation, you're having a certain body, you have a family, you have this, you have that. All of this is determined by your prarabdha karma. But now the prarabdha karma comes from the baggage of sanchita karma. The Sanchita Karma is all the sum total of all your lifetimes of deposits put together. But when you have no connection to that account, therefore there can be no prarabdha for you. And because there is no prarabdha for you any longer in the next Janma, you cannot take birth. And because you cannot take birth, you are already free. So I will not say that you are free because you don't take birth, but it is the fact that you are free, therefore you don't have to take birth. There's a difference over there. People think that moksha is gained after you die, but moksha is gained the very moment jnana nishtha takes place. And so that is what moksha is. Moksha is a freedom from ignorance. Freedom from the ignorance that I am limited. Freedom from limitations.
Prashantji, one doubt is, so
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, Shamuji, are you speaking? Yeah, I think maybe
I see.
he's meeting.
Sorry, Hemantji, you were saying something earlier?
No, I was just asking, like, I think you spoke something, so I was just not sure whether your connection is proper, like whether you said the question and none of us heard it. So I just wanted to make sure that you spoke or not spoke anything.
I see.
uh,
Okay,
were you able
Prashantji,
to hear?
yeah, Prashantji, thanks. That makes sense. But again, like when we say when the Nana dawns, like as in we realize that we are not Alpagnas and we are in fact the whole like the Brahman, like we are not non-separate from the Brahman, and it is because of the Maya Shakti and the Avarna, like we feel dual, like I see myself being different from others and everything else. So
Yes.
once that happens, like what does it mean, like I mean, like I don't have sense of kartrutva. I mean, like if I go and eat say I have food now, like I'm doing a karya like or karma, and
No.
do I how does it work? I'm not able to understand like when we don't associate ourselves with kartrutva.
Yeah. So let's suppose there's a hypothetical jnani.
Mm-hmm.
And this jnani, of course, has no sense of doership because the doer is the limited jiva. The when we talk about performing actions, who is performing the actions? Your limbs are performing the actions. Your hand is reaching out to take a glass of water. So it is your limbs. But now your limbs are able to grasp uh, anything only because it has the blessing of the prana, right? So the prana is pervading all your limbs, and again the message to the prana is also sent through the mind, the buddhi or the mana, and therefore the doer is really the jiva. The jiva is the doer. So anytime one performs an action, one sees that there is a doership involved over there, but that is not necessarily there because actions can also be performed without doership. For example, you see that there's a tree that is growing. The tree grows, but it does not like intend to grow. It is just part and parcel of its DNA that it grows. So actions are just being performed. It is part of Prakriti that enable it. Similarly, when you talk about the jnani, it is again simply part of the Prakriti of the body and the mind to continue, living out their prarabdha karma. So the reason the jnani appears to do things is because there is still a prarabdha for the body and the swadharma will continue. But the jnani is not the one who's performed the actions. The jnani is not, in fact, here's a controversial statement. There is no jnani. If you ask a jnani that are you a jnani, the jnani is not going to respond because the fact is that for the jnani there is only Brahman. If the jnani says that there is a jnani, again there's a sense of duality because he's also giving weight to something called an ajnani, right? If you ask somebody that you're a jnani, there's an assumption that there's somebody else who's an ajnani. But that is again an assumption. But for the standpoint of the jnani, he's relating only with Brahman. In fact, the identity is completely moved. It's completely shifted over to Brahman. And therefore, whatever actions are being performed are definitely being performed by the body and the mind. So certainly, when actions are performed, results are also got gained. But this jnani who no longer has any connection to the account of karmas because of the lack of doership, the result has to go somewhere. And this is something you will see in the end of Tattvabodha, that all the actions that are performed by the jnani, without a sense of doership, the results have to go somewhere. And therefore the results go to the person who does his prashansa, which is, you praise a jnani, you take care of a jnani, you serve a jnani, you learn from a jnani. And all the good karmas of the jnani will go towards this bhakta. At the same time, whatever actions have been performed by the jnani inadvertently, like it is possible that the body and the mind of the jnani may step on an ant by mistake, right? Some things cannot be controlled, and therefore all the negative results performed by the jnani before jnanam will also go towards the one who does the ninda of the jnani. So there are many people who keep insulting gurus. Now some gurus are definitely worth criticizing, but because they are not really gurus in the first place. But then there are some who are very genuine teachers. Like for example, how the state government of Tamil Nadu treated the Kanchi Shankaracharya, right? So doing such ninda of the guru will earn the person a lot of papam. And so therefore the karmas are performed and they continue being performed, but the results are no longer attached to the jnani. The results are only attached to the ajnani's account. So that is how the actions are performed. It's all again part and parcel of the prakriti of the sharira and the manaha.
Thank you very much, Prashant. Absolutely beautiful. It makes so much sense, like what you said. Absolutely true. Yeah, thank you, thank you. That
Thank you.
clarified. Yeah.
Now I have one question. It's like
Yeah.
Avidya, in that article, it is said that Avidya is seeing this one non-dual Brahman as many, that is the diverse Jagat, right?
Sorry, seeing this
Uh,
Brahman as the Jagat.
Seeing this one non-dual reality as many, seeing manyness, seeing this one non-dual reality is what we call Avidya. That is
Yes.
the explanation. So, where does this avidya happen actually? Is it in our buddhi? I am perceiving this instead of understanding it as one non-dual Satchidananda Brahman, I am taking it as the world. Does it happen in my buddhi?
This is a very complex question. So let's look at it in several ways. What is the buddhi? The buddhi is the Sukshma Sharira. It belongs to the Sukshma Sharira. It's a function of the Sukshma Sharira. More specifically, the Antakarana. Now, the Antakarana has its basis in the Karana Sharira, right? So when we talk about the three Shariras, Karana, Sukshma, and Sthula, the Karana Sharira is the basis for the Sukshma Sharira. The Sukshma Sharira manifests from the Karana Sharira, and also the Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira come together because of the Karana Sharira. So the Karana Sharira is responsible for the Sthula and the Sukshma Sharira to come together. And therefore, the Karana Sharira in a sense is a little more basic than the Sukshma Sharira. And I don't mean that it's of a higher order of reality, because that would be Brahman. But what I mean is it is subtler. It is even subtler than the subtle body. So when we talk about this avidya, it has again twofold property, just like Maya. So from the standpoint of the body, or from the standpoint of the jiva, this Maya we refer to as avidya. And the reason we do that, and I'll come to your question, it's related to what I'm saying. But the reason we do that is because the Maya Shakti is responsible for the Jagat to manifest. Avidya or Karana Shakti, Karana Sharira is responsible for the jiva to manifest as a complete being. So I think a few weeks back I had sent you this random chart I had made. You remember about the stages of evolution of the Sharira and the cosmos. I'll come back to that at the end. Now coming to your question, where is avidya? What is the locus of avidya? Right? The locus of avidya cannot be the buddhi, because the karana sharira is again the locus of the sukshma sharira. Therefore, the locus of avidya is Brahman. And this is a very important question you ask, and it has been a point of debate between people thousands of years ago also. So, according to, I believe, Sureshwaracharya, the locus of avidya is the jiva. The jivatvam is the locus of avidya. According to Adi Shankaracharya, however, the locus of avidya is Brahman. So I think though they both are great teachers, we'll have to go with what Adi Shankaracharya explains, which is that Brahman is the locus of avidya. Now one can ask that, okay, but Brahman is the locus of everything. So why are we, taking the shortcut and saying that the locus of avidya is Brahman? Because avidya, being so subtle, cannot have a locus anywhere else except in something that is subtler than avidya also. And what is subtler than avidya or maya is Brahman. It is the subtlest. So Brahman is the subtlest, and then you have avidya, which is the most subtle thing you can think about in terms of Jagat. And then you have this whole Sukshma Sharira, which is a little less subtle. And then you have the Sthula Sharira, which is the least subtle. If that kind of makes sense. So the locus where this avidya is located is Brahman. But now, if the locus of avidya is Brahman, then why does knowledge have to take place in the buddhi? Because it is the same avidya which is pervading through the Sukshma Sharira as well. And this is the important part. The avidya is pervading through the Sukshma Sharira as well, including the veil of avidya that is spread over the Sukshma Sharira, over the buddhi. And so this veil, this ignorance, this avarana, so when Pujya Swamiji refers to in the last line, what is one not dual, what you see is dual, that taking duality to be real is avidya. So over here Pujya Swamiji is specifically referring to the avarana shakti of avidya, not the vikshepa shakti. So this avarana shakti is what is projecting over the buddhi. Avidya is not located in the buddhi. Avidya is actually projecting and veiling the knowledge that ought to be there in the buddhi, and this can only be destroyed by knowledge that is coming from an external pramana, if that makes sense. It is, I know it's a kind of a complex, convoluted answer, but it is a detailed one.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense actually.
Okay.
But still, how can Brahman is pure jnanam, right? So how can
Yes.
then avidya be in Brahman?
So when we talk about, there's a completely different understanding as well. When we say Brahman is jnanam, it does not translate to knowledge. Rather, it is the knowledge principle. In fact, it is the dhatu of knowledge. So when okay, let's put it this way. You have this triputi, right? You have pramana, prameya, and prama. So you have the knower, which is the prama. you have the means of knowledge, which is a pramana, and then you have the object of knowledge, which is the prameya. So these are the three things connecting. So the knowledge, when you talk, what is the knowledge over here? The knowledge is that which is connecting the subject to the object, right? So if I am, let's say, from the standpoint of the drik, which is the eyes are the subject. The tree that I see is the object. So the eyes are the subject. The tree is the object. And the means of knowledge, or sorry, what's connecting me to the tree is the knowledge. But if Brahman is only the knowledge, which is, as we say, Brahman is Jnanam, then there's a limitation. Because if Brahman is only pure knowledge, as you say, then Brahman cannot be the knower, nor can Brahman be the act of knowing, nor can Brahman be the very object of knowledge. And therefore, in Brahma Sutra, Pujya Swamiji explains that when we talk about Jnanam, Brahman is Jnanam, Brahman is the knower, the known, as well as the knowledge, all three. And therefore, the knower over here is also you, the known is also you, and the knowledge is also you. And this is what you call Advaita. Because if there is at all any separation, if we only reduce Brahman to knowledge, then that again becomes a very mithya projection of Brahman, where we are looking only at one aspect. But from the standpoint of Satyam, the knower is also upheld by Brahman, the known is also upheld by Brahman, and the knowledge is also upheld by Brahman. But what is transcending through from both the orders of reality, which is Satyam and Mithya, is this existence principle and is this knowledge principle. But the knowledge principle is not the same as knowledge. So this is what takes us back to this whole Drik Drisha Vivek class, right? When Swaminiji explains that many people are stuck in the idea that Brahman, you are the witness of the world. But then if you are the witness of the world is still separate from you, it is still a duality. And therefore you have to even transcend the role of a witness, and you have to incorporate everything, including what is witnessed and including the act of witnessing and including the connection, the pramana that connects you to the object that is witnessed. So all of this put together is Brahman. So the Maya, the avidya, which is covering the avarana, which is covering the knowledge, is also Brahman. The knowledge which removes the avarana is also Brahman. And the buddhi where this knowledge takes place is also Brahman. But when we say Brahman is a knowledge principle, that is consciousness. Knowledge can only take place in the presence of a conscious being. I can only know something because I am conscious. So therefore the knowledge that we talk about depends upon this jnanam. Knowledge is not the same as the jnanam that is referred to in Brahma Lakshana, but the knowledge in terms of the secular terms of knowledge that we use depends upon jnanam, which is even subtler than knowledge, because jnanam is a knowledge principle. It is that in the presence of which things can be known. Eyes are the things in the presence of which colors can be seen. The mind is that in the presence of which what the eyes see can be known. The sakshi, the witness, is that in the presence of which the mind can be known. And Brahman is that in the presence of which even sakshi has its own being. So there are many individual sakshis, right? I can say from my standpoint, I'm a sakshi, you're a sakshi. We all have our respective kshetras, but we all see respective things. But it is Brahman, it is this jnanam which is supporting and underlying all the sakshis. And therefore, Brahman is even subtler than the sakshi. Brahman is even subtler than the knowledge. Yeah, it's very complex, because I think it's more easy to look at Brahman as Sat as opposed to looking at Brahman as Chit, because Chit gets a little complex. Most people are only happy saying that Brahman is consciousness, but it's not the full explanation.
You answer some almost clear.
I see.
Yeah, we can have to contemplate upon it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this point is really complex, Prashant, because even I was surprised when you said Brahman is the locus for avidya. So it was getting a little complex. And now you're saying because everything originates from Brahman, hence he is the cause for it also.
So
Is that
Brahman
how
is
I understand?
correct. So Brahman is the locus. Okay, so let's put it this way, right? Let's think of it in a scientific term. What is
The
the
idea
locus of Akasha?
of Advaita that makes it so easy to understand.
Sorry, could you repeat
Because
that?
if everything is one, then, or the truth, then you see that there's no duality then.
Yes. So, but when I actually say that Brahman is the locus of avidya, I actually mean that in terms of mithya, there is nothing that is subtler than avidya. So I can always say that the locus of the Pancha Bhautikas are the Pancha Bhutas. The locus of the Pancha Bhutas are again Maya. But the locus of Maya is ultimately Brahman. And the locus of Brahman, there's no such question, because when you talk about locus, you have to talk about something that is outside of the locus. But because there is nothing outside of Brahman, Brahman cannot have a locus. But there can be something that is outside of anything else, right? There could be something that is outside of a room, and there could be something that is outside of the planet, and there could be something which is outside of the galaxy, and there could be something which is outside of the universe, because there could be multiverses. But there's nothing that is outside of Brahman, because everything is incorporated in Brahman, in fact. And that's also a wrong statement. Everything is Brahman from the standpoint of Satyam, and from the standpoint of Mithya, everything is a projection of Maya. So I was actually being extremely literal when I said that the locus of avidya is Brahman, because I can't think of anything that is subtler than avidya in terms of mithya.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And another doubt that might arise is, let's say, how did one become ignorant in the first place? So let's have
Yes.
this as a group discussion. What are your thoughts?
I've been asking this question to Swaminiji for quite some time, and she's like, "You will learn about it." This is the answer I'm getting.
Do you want a quick answer? No, but I would like you all to think it through. Like, just give your own speculations.
Yeah, that's again because of our ignorance, right?
I think it is because of the Avarana Shakti of the Maya. I mean, like, basically, literally, Avarana translates to something like which is covering the truth. Like, I think that is only because of Maya Shakti. I think we are ignorant. Like, we are actually nothing but Brahman, and we are not able to distinguish, and we just have this Kartrutvam very much ingrained into us, and see the duality everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So now the thing is that as Indians, we are still very prone to looking at the world from a biblical perspective, from a Christian perspective, right? So, oh, let there be a beginning, let there be light, let there be this, let there be that, whatever. So there is a sense that there is a first period of time when something took place. So, for example, when was the first manifestation? Or when did the first jiva come into being, right? So all of these are questions that are only there because we are looking at it from a very linear perspective. But then when we talk about time, I guess maybe I'm going too much off discussion, and we can save this for another point. But okay, let me just say that there is no beginning. It's called Anadi Kala Pravrittihi. So I'll write that down. So this whole Jagat, manifestation and manifestation, manifestation and manifestation, the cycle of birth and death and rebirth and death and karma and this and that, it's there since beginningless time. So there is no such thing as first jiva. There's no such thing as first jagat. It has always been there. This whole pravritti, this whole pursuit, this whole journey has been there from beginningless time. And therefore avidya has always been there. Now let's take a counter example. Suppose I say that there was knowledge first, and then knowledge got veiled, and then there was avidya. Is that correct? Then there was always knowledge, but then later the avarana took over, and then we became ignorant. Would that be correct?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, why?
Because the very fact that, as you said, explained earlier, if there is something knowledge, there has to be like knower of that knowledge. Likewise, I mean, like as you said, the knowledge, the knower, and the known all are Brahman. So there cannot be like as such knowledge just existent as such, and which will be covered by the avarana. So is that correct? Like assumption, like what I'm speaking?
It's
Or did I get
slightly
confused?
different from where I'm coming from. So let me put it this way. When you if we say that first I had knowledge and then later I became ignorant, then that is like saying that, you know what? if you get moksha, if you gain self-knowledge, there's no guarantee that it'll stay because you may become ignorant afterwards. And therefore, this whole pursuit breaks apart. There's no need for it. If I get moksha, which is self-knowledge only, and then if that knowledge can again get covered, then it cannot be a permanent thing. But our Shastra says that once you have knowledge of something, it cannot go away. Knowledge cannot be erased. Now, one may say, oh, sometimes I think that I'm Brahman and I've studied about it and all, but then sometimes I again become ignorant. It's not possible. It means that it has not been assimilated in the first place. But once the knowledge is assimilated, it is there to stay. And so you cannot become ignorant if knowledge was always there. And therefore, the only correct conclusion is that the Vidya was always there. The Atma Vidya, specifically I refer to, was always there. And that has to be removed by knowledge. Once the Atma Vidya is removed by knowledge, it is gone. And then only knowledge shines. The fact that I am Brahman is always shining, it's ever shining. There's nishtha about it. So now the other question is, and it's actually answered in the document already that Pujya Swamiji's based on his teachings. What is the relationship between avidya and knowledge?
They're opposites.
They're directly opposites.
Is avidya the absence of knowledge?
No.
Okay.
It's actually, no, absence cannot be cause for something that actually positively exists. That's what Swamiji clearly says.
Okay. And why not?
Can everything come from the absence of knowledge? Or the absence of knowledge is not an actual thing. So how can the entire Jagat originate from such a thing called absence of knowledge? I don't know how.
Yes, absolutely. So because this avidya has bhava, it has some sort of existence. The existence is anirvachaniya. Anirvachaniya means that which is not categorical. I cannot put avidya into a category. I cannot put it into a bucket, right? So, for example, I can categorize animals as one species. I can categorize plants as a different species. But I cannot categorize avidya into anything because there is nothing like avidya. Avidya is like avidya only. There is nothing like it. So, in that sense, it is very anirvachaniya. So, now avidya is also responsible for adhyasa. This is again a little bit of Brahma Sutra. Not that I've studied it. I've probably like studied a few talks of it, but I'll write it down over here. So avidya is basically something that is opposed to knowledge, as like Shamubai mentioned. It is not the absence of knowledge. If it is the absence of knowledge, then that means that avidya is not real. And that means there is something called knowledge, and the lack of the knowledge is avidya. It is like saying that there is light, but then the absence of light, which is darkness, is what you call avidya, which is not the right example. That is where the example falls apart. The only place where the example holds is that yes, when you shine light, the darkness goes away. Similarly, when you shine light, the avidya goes away. But that is where the example stops. Okay? So now, when you talk about avidya, it is responsible for adhyasa. Adhyasa, the classic example of adhyasa is a rope and snake. When I see a rope and I perceive it as a snake, the snake becomes real for me. The snake has some sort of existence for me. The snake is neither real, because obviously its basis is the rope, nor is the snake unreal, because the snake is capable of causing errors. What kind of errors? I may get frightened, I may run away, I may fall down, I may get freaked out. All of these errors are possible because of ignorance. But if the avidya, if avidya were something that has no bhava, then it could not be capable of causing errors. An error can only be caused by something that is existing, not by something that is non-existent. And therefore the snake has a reality. It has a reality which is, from the standpoint of the jiva, it is pratibhashika. The snake does not really exist, but it is there in my mind, because it is projected in my mind, because I see it. I see it in my mind, even though it is not outside. And therefore avidya is capable of causing errors, and therefore avidya is something that is bhavaha. That means it has existence of some sort. And so if it has existence of some sort, it cannot be absence of anything. It has to be opposed to that thing which it is covering. So the way to look at avidya, again an example which you cannot stretch too far, is like it is a lid that is covering the lamp that has giving out light. Let's say there's a lamp which is burning, it's giving out bright light, and you put a lid on top of it. That is what avidya is. You're putting a lid on top of knowledge, you're covering it. So that is the avarana.
One last doubt. Would it be correct to say that because of this avidya or avarana shakti, each jiva is thinking of the world as diverse and not one uh, non-dual Brahman? So can you say that?
Yeah, from one standpoint. So let's take two perspectives. Because this always helps us a lot. Let's take the perspective of an Ajnani. The Ajnani looks at the Jagat as separate from himself. The Jnani will also see the Jagat. It's not that he'll bump into a wall and think that it's not there and he'll break his nose, right? So the Jnani will also see things. He will also transact as though transact, but he knows that the Adhisthana, the basis for all of this is I, the self, the Atma, Brahman. So let's take two examples over here. And this is something that Swamini Swatmavidyananda told me long back when I had the same question. When you think of the rope snake example, when you are ignorant about the rope, you see a snake. But when you have knowledge of the rope, the snake goes away, right? The snake has disappeared. But now I asked the same question to Swamiji. I said, Swamiji, if I have knowledge of the Jagat being Brahman, the Jagat does not disappear. The Jagat is still there. So then how does the rope snake example apply? So she said that, yeah, there are two types of avaranas that are taking place. One where the inferred object disappears, the superimposed object disappears, and the other where it doesn't. And so the example she gave me was that sunrise. You know, based on your experience, that the sun rises from the east and it sets in the west. And it gives you the appearance that the sun is going around the earth, right? It goes round, round, round because it rises from one place, it sets from the other. Now, somebody tells you that, hey, the earth is actually spinning. And that is why it appears that the sun is going around the earth. So now the knowledge of the fact that the sun does not go around the earth does not change your perception of the sun rising from the east to the west. But now the knowledge simply gives you an appreciation that it is only a projection, it is not real, if that makes sense. So similarly, when the Jnani gains the knowledge that I am the whole and all that there is only Brahman, it will not change the fact that there is a projected Jagat. The Jagat will still be there, it will appear. But now the Jnani will have an appreciation of the basis of the Jagat, which is the self. So that is a difference.
Thank you, Prashant. Amazing explanation.
Yes, all thanks to Savli ji.
Any, does anyone have any questions or can we stop?
It's a really vast topic. It can go on and on. So,
Yeah.
I would encourage that even if people don't have questions today, they can always raise it in the Gita classes or whatever.
Thanks for sharing.
Sure, sure. No, this was a lot of fun, and Pujya Sabji's explanation is very clear.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Prashant. I had a question, but I've reached the temple, so I'll ask you separately.
Sure, sure. Otherwise,
Yeah.
if you can type it or something, we can just discuss as a group, and I can send you.
Oh no, I'm already reached at the temple
acha,
where I'm going to teach. I was driving and listening.
Acha, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Close. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamidachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.